Heartwarming moment. Cops discover their boss is black woman they assaulted. Faces go pale. Lisa had always been the heartbeat of her modest Midwestern town. At 32, she held two jobs and wrapped them around the one thing that mattered most to her 10-year-old daughter, Mia. Mama by day, cleaner by night, Lisa embodied resilience. The dream of cozy family dinners and laughter swirled in her heart like the rich scents of gumbo simmering on the stove. But beneath her warm smiles lay the weight of social prejudice and economic struggle. One Monday morning, the announcement came. Congratulations, Officer Lisa. You've been promoted to Chief of Police. Her heart soared, her mind reeling. She worked hard, fought through the laughter and tears, and now the community was about to see a woman of color leading their department. But as her mind swirled with dreams of justice and fairness, she remembered Mark and Ryan, two officers tangled in a dark past. Years ago, they'd been involved in a wrongful assault against a woman of color. That night still ran like a stain through the fabric of their community. She could feel the whispers swirling, the murmurs of doubt and skepticism. What did it mean to have a black woman at the helm of the same department that had failed so many? Would they embrace her or recoil? Lisa steeled herself as she walked into the precinct, her heart racing. She was a blazing light in a room full of shadows. But she could practically feel the eyes on her, the quiet tension that filled the air like smoke. The officers were nervous. And why wouldn't they be? They had their own ghosts to confront. As she moved through the day, Lisa confronted those ghosts. One moment, Mia ran to her with a drawing, showing them together, smiling under a rainbow. It filled Lisa's heart with warmth and hope. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The community outreach event was set to be a chance for healing. As residents gathered, Lisa observed the charged atmosphere. Lingering glances, whispered doubts. When she stepped up to speak, she felt every eye upon her, including Mark and Ryan, the officers who had faced her past. Breaths collectively held, hearts racing. Today, Lisa began, her voice steady though her heart raced. We're not just here to mend wounds, but to confront them. The cacophony of anger erupted. Voices rose, fists clenched, as the past collided sharply with the present. I'm here to bring justice, she continued. As she faced Mark and Ryan, their faces paled, a ghostly echo of regret shadowing their features. Lisa's heart pounded as she felt the crowd's tension ripple, the kind of energy that made the air thick. Just as a glimmer of hope broke through the chaos, a bitter comment from the crowd shattered it like glass. Lisa locked eyes with Mark and Ryan, their expressions a mix of guilt and fear. Could they truly bridge the chasm that stretched between them? Would forgiveness be more than just a word? Silence hung heavy in the air, and at that moment, the question of hope and healing burned brighter than ever. The crowd murmured, a wave of emotions crashing against Lisa's heart. Voices of anger, pain, and confusion danced like shadows around her. She stood tall, yet felt like her legs were made of jelly. The whispers enveloped her, and every accusing gaze weighed down on her spirit. What had she done to deserve this? The scene felt like a standoff, all eyes demanding something, maybe blood, maybe contrition. Why should we trust you? A voice bellowed from the back. Lisa instinctively glanced toward the source. A man with a scarred face, a tough exterior built by years of hardship. Was this the cycle repeating itself? I understand your pain, Lisa said, her own heart pounding in her chest. I truly do. I live it every day. I'm not here to erase what happened. But she hesitated, struggling to find the right words. I'm here to make sure it never happens again. The air crackled with disbelief, but she pressed on, feeling the ghost of Mia's drawing wrap around her like a blanket of courage. I want to hear your stories. I want to be the chief who listens. I want to heal with you, not over you." Mark and Ryan stood rigid, the weight of their past pressing on their shoulders. Lisa could see them grappling with the moment, the way their hands fidgeted and their eyes darted. Would they join her on this road toward redemption, or would they remain just shadows of that darker past? Suddenly, a woman stepped forward, her eyes fierce and unyielding. "You say you want to listen, but what about those you hurt?" The question hung heavy, a pendulum of doubt swinging dangerously close to Lisa's heart. "I'm here to ensure that change happens," she replied, raising her voice to match the intensity of the moment. "I will hold every officer accountable." There was a ripple of murmurs. Faces began to soften, but the tension still thickened. Somewhere deep inside, Lisa felt a sliver of hope. Perhaps they were willing to meet her halfway. The little boy, no older than Mia, pulled at his mother's sleeve and pointed at Lisa. "Is she really the chief?" he asked innocently, unaware of the storm boiling around them. "Yes, she is," the mother responded, glancing back at Lisa with uncertainty. Lisa could feel a crack forming, the tightness in the atmosphere loosening just a bit. "Maybe, just maybe," someone whispered. It was a start. As Lisa looked around, she spotted Mia in the crowd, peeking through the sea of faces. The vision of her daughter radiated warmth and reminded her why she was fighting. If she could instill hope in her daughter, if Lisa could show a better path, then perhaps the community would gather that hope, too. Then, Mark finally stepped forward, the tension in his jaw revealing the battle within. "I was wrong. We were wrong," he said, his voice trembling. Lisa held her breath, his confession a fragile bridge over the abyss that separated them. I didn't see you, Lisa. I didn't see the humanity in you then. But I do now," he continued, each word a tentative step toward atonement. An electricity crackled in the air, a collective gasp mingling with murmurs of disbelief. Lisa's heart soared. Could they really start anew? But just then, Ryan's brow furrowed. What if they don't accept it? What if they want revenge instead of forgiveness? His voice shook as fear crept back in. Lisa looked around. All eyes remained fixed on her, a silent call for leadership amid uncertainty. "Then we stand together, no matter the outcome," she assured them. "This is just the beginning." The crowd murmured among themselves, the room thick with uncertainty, but also something warmer, a flicker of hope. What would it take to turn the tide? Could Lisa truly lead this fractured community toward healing? A new era awaited, but doubt still lingered like a ghost. And as the sunlight began to set, casting a warm glow over the crowd, one thought burned fiercely in Lisa's mind. Would they fight together for a better tomorrow, or would the chains of the past bind them forever? The tension in the air thickened as Lisa searched the crowd for answers. Mark's words hung between them, fragile and full of possibility. She could feel the pulse of the crowd, a collective heartbeat of uncertain hope and simmering fear. "We can reforge our community," Lisa said, her voice steady as she wove between confidence and vulnerability. "But it has to start with honesty. I want to hear your pain, your truth, no matter how hard it is to share." A murmur rippled through the spectators, and she could see the flickers of doubt. The woman with the fierce eyes stepped closer. "What does that even mean? Are you ready to expose everything? Can you handle it?" "I'm willing to listen," Lisa replied. She noticed new faces drifting forward, curious but skeptical. "And I'm ready to make this right." From the back, the scarred man stepped forward again, his shoulders square, his expression hardened. "You don't understand," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "You think you can just fix this with words? Our lives are not a policy change. There are stories, our blood, our scars." Lisa met his gaze, feeling the weight of his grief pulsing in the air. "I know it's not going to be easy. I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But I promise I will work tirelessly to rebuild trust. I'm asking for a chance to be better, for us all to be better." The sun dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of orange and red, like a masterpiece just waiting to be unveiled. Just as Lisa thought hope was softening the crowd, a voice broke through the dimming light. "And what if you fail? What if this is all just theater to appease us? It was Ryan, his tone rigid and sharp. Are we supposed to believe that a woman in your position can change a system that has been broken for so long? Every system can evolve, she retorted, her heart racing. I know it's hard to see, but look around. Look at the faces that are mirroring your doubt. Together, we can transform that despair into strength. The air crackled again, but beneath the spikes of resentment, Lisa detected something softer internal struggles, a flicker of consideration. One by one, eyes that had once rested heavy with skepticism were searching hers, dissecting her truth. Mia's tiny hand waved from the back, and the warmth from her daughter's innocent grin steadied Lisa. If only they could see through her eyes, see the potential to change, to build a future unchained from anger and revenge. I'm here for you, all of you, Lisa said, her voice trembling with conviction. I need you to be real with me. Share your scars with me. We can face the ugly parts together. The silence engulfed the crowd, their breaths held as if time had stilled. Then, an elderly woman stepped forward, her frame small but unwavering. My son, he didn't come home one night. He was wronged. And now, we're left holding the pieces. How can we trust you not to repeat that? Tears pooled in Lisa's eyes. I can never fill that void, but I will fight for change, for accountability. No parent should feel that way. Let us make sure no one else has to. A ripple of recognition flickered in other faces. They weren't just spectators anymore. They were part of a collective heartbeat, forming new rhythms with each passing moment. What do you want us to do? The scarred man asked, his voice softer now, the challenge within tinted with interest. Lisa took a deep breath, catching a glimpse of the scattered hopes surrounding her. Let us form a council. Let us talk, share, and plan together. We can create a platform where everyone's voice is heard, where the shadows of the past can finally illuminate a path forward. As murmurs of agreement began to echo, a glimmer of hope ignited within her. But before she could fully embrace it, Ryan spoke again, hesitating. What if we're betrayed again? Shouldn't we prepare ourselves? Then we prepare ourselves together, Lisa exclaimed, feeling the reassurance in her words. We bind our hearts as a community, ready to defend our future. And in that moment, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a profound stillness. A few hearts shifted as trust began to fill the cracks, but uncertainty lingered, palpable in its intensity. With all eyes on her, Lisa knew they were teetering on the brink of something transformative. What was she willing to risk to help them leap into the unknown? As the shadows lengthened, Lisa could feel the weight of their collective history pressing on her shoulders. The next question loomed large. Would they be willing to join her on this uncharted journey, or would they take a step back into darkness? The air shifted, thickening with a mix of hope and trepidation. Lisa sensed the anxiety ripple through the crowd, but there was something more in awakening. Faces that had once been masked in anger were revealing hidden emotions, worn thin from years of struggle. I want to thank you, the elderly woman began, her voice steady yet edged with raw vulnerability, for hearing us. It's rare to feel listened to. She stepped back, and others began to step forward, emboldened by her words. That a tall man with tired eyes spoke next. My brother was arrested for a crime he didn't commit. We lost years of his life because of it. How do we know you will stand up for us? His brow furrowed, and Lisa could hear the desperation in his tone. Swallowing hard, she replied, I know it's hard to believe, but that's why we need communication. I'll be your advocate. We'll find a way to hold each other accountable. I want to understand your experiences, to make sure no one else suffers like your brother. One by one, the audience loosened its grip on skepticism, sharing their stories of loss, betrayal, and longing. Each voice was a thread in the tapestry of their collective pain, intertwining into a larger narrative. Lisa felt their emotions as if they were her own anguish, frustration, but also a flicker of hope. Mia, Lisa called, and her daughter rushed to her side, sensing the change in the crowd. I want you to hear these stories, too. You need to see what your community faces. It's important. Mia nodded, her eyes wide with understanding. As a teenage girl began to share her story of feeling voiceless in a system stacked against her. Lisa saw more than just community members. She saw families, friends, lives intertwined by challenges yet bound by hope. The shared pain transformed the gathering. Each tale urged others to join in, like a wave swelling stronger with every word. "Thank you for giving us a voice," the scarred man said, tears in the corners of his eyes. "But what will you do when the time comes for action? Will you still fight for us when it's hard?" Lisa's heart thudded in her chest. "You have my word. I want to back down. But it begins here. Together, we'll face the scrutiny and the adversity. We'll challenge the norms, and I promise, I won't let you stand alone." The crowd began to buzz with energy. People stood a bit taller, voices grew stronger. Lisa felt the momentum shifting. But just as quick, Ryan's voice cut through, challenging the wave of camaraderie. "And what happens if you fall short? If you falter in your promise?" With her heart pounding, Lisa locked eyes with him. "Then we pick each other up. If I fail, I will be the first to apologize. This isn't about me. It's about us. We are a community, and in a community, we hold each other accountable beyond the individual." The vulnerability of her answer hung in the air, like a fragile note that could shatter or foster unison. She sensed the crowd wrestle with their doubts. Uncertainty still lingered, but the shift had begun. People started murmuring words of agreement, hearts slightly more open than before. "Maybe it's time for something different," whispered the woman with fierce eyes, almost to herself. "Maybe we can do this together and not apart." Suddenly, the night felt charged with anticipation. Past grievances seemed to flicker and fade, replaced by the promise of a shared future. It was both exhilarating and daunting all at once. Staring into the sea of faces, Lisa felt a spark within. "So, who is ready to take that leap with me?" She extended her hand, open to the crowd, an invitation to step into the unknown with her. But just as she thought it was happening, a low rumble distracted everyone. The distant sound of sirens cut through the moment as red and blue flashed on the horizon, stark against the night sky. The mood shifted again, an undercurrent of fear replaced hope. "What could that mean?" Mia whispered, clutching her mother's hand tightly. Lisa turned toward the sound, a knot forming in her stomach as the sirens grew louder. She knew this was a pivotal moment, one that hammered on the door to their dreams and perhaps their deepest fears. Was this the reckoning they had hoped to bypass? Or was it merely the beginning of something they had yet to comprehend? The sirens pierced the night air, each wail gnawing deeper into Lisa's gut. She could see men in uniforms darting from their cars, urgency in their movements. The crowd tensed, a collective inhale that stifled hope into a tight knot of dread. "Stay close, Mia," Lisa whispered, her voice trembling slightly. The warmth of her daughter's hand felt like a lifeline in that moment of uncertainty. The crowd's reactions varied. Some looked horrified, others were ready to disperse, while a few stood rooted, their expressions a mix of fear and defiance. Ryan, projecting a mix of skepticism and concern, took a step toward Lisa. "What if they're here for us? What if they don't want this to happen?" His voice was strained, but beneath the fear, there was an owner of something bigger, an awareness of history that stretched far beyond this gathering. Lisa's mind raced. They might be scared too, she contemplated, grappling with the reality before her. "But if we run, we'll lose everything we've just built here." Murmurs of agreement brushed through the crowd like a gust of wind through tall grass. Lisa felt the tide of determination swelling once more, as people slowly lowered their fists and glanced at one another. What she saw in their eyes was recognition, the acknowledgement of their shared struggles. As the officers approached the gathering, she could feel hearts churning in confusion. Hesitation lingered in the air like the last thread of light before twilight. With drawn breath, Lisa stepped forward, casting aside her own fear. "Let us stand together, no matter what happens," she declared, her voice ringing clear and strong. Before she finished speaking, an officer called out, "Everyone remain calm. We're just here to assess the situation. Just here to assess the situation," echoed the woman from earlier, a storm of bitterness cutting through her tone. You mean you want to silence us again? Lisa turned to the elderly woman, whose fierce eyes had become a beacon for many. No one is silencing us tonight. The officer, a middle-aged man with shoulders squared and brows knit tight, seemed to digest the shift in the crowd. Slowly, he stepped forward. We heard reports of a disturbance, something about a large gathering. Just making sure everyone is all right. Silence fell heavy, wrapping around them all. Lisa exchanged glances with Mia, who looked on, wide-eyed, taking in the scene like a sponge, the emotional stakes simmering just beneath the surface. Who called the cops? Shouted someone in the back, the tension igniting like a spark in dry grass. As anger unfurled, Lisa felt her heart race. She had wanted to bridge the divide between law enforcement and the community. But now, that goal felt as delicate as a thread, ready to snap at the slightest tug. Listen, we have every right to be here. We're trying to voice our experiences. She called out, hoping her conviction might leap across the space between them. Then let us help, the officer replied, softening his stance slightly. Let us know how we can support you. But Lisa wondered in that moment, could they truly be trusted? Visions of past injustices came flooding back, the echoes of what community members had faced dancing like shadows in her mind. And then, just as the first signs of dialogue began to unfold, a rumble of thunder rolled above, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The air between them felt charged. A pivotal moment hung in the balance. Was this the turn toward understanding, or the start of a new conflict? Hope wrestled with fear, the weight of each possibility crashing over them all like waves against the shore. As the officer took a tentative step forward, Lisa felt the ground shift beneath her. Would they bridge the gap, or would the sirens once again spiral into chaos, pushing them further apart? The answer still lingered in the air, as palpable as the tension. What would happen when the truth emerged? The officer took another hesitant step, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for a sign that would guide him through this uncertain territory. Lisa braced herself, ready to hold her ground. We're just trying to share our stories to be heard, she said, her voice trembling slightly but resolute. Mia squeezed her hand tighter, sensing her mother's unease. Lisa took a deep breath and continued, this isn't just about tonight. It's about years of pain and silence. We want to change that. Change. Another voice from the crowd piped up, this one tinged with bitterness. Change doesn't happen overnight. It starts with people like you listening to people like us. The officer's brow furrowed deeper. He looked around, absorbing the emotions that radiated from the faces in front of him. Finally, he spoke. I get that, but we need to understand what's going on, not just what has happened before. Can you tell us? A heated discussion erupted, voices rising and falling like stormy waves. Some demanded accountability, others pleaded for dialogue. Lisa felt it all crashing into her like a tidal wave, each voice adding weight to her heart. She recognized the urgency, the hunger for justice that permeated their words. Okay, Lisa shouted, raising her hands as if to regain control. Let's take a breath. If we start with one story one person can speak, maybe we can build this bridge together. There was a pause as the crowd digested her words. Finally, an older man, grizzled and wearing a look of a lifetime stepped forward. I'll go, he said, his voice gravelly but steady. I've been living this truth day after day. They need to hear it. As he began to share his experiences, the crowd fell silent. Each word dripped with raw emotion, memories of discrimination and pain spilling forth. Lisa watched the officer's face, which seemed to soften ever so slightly with each confession. Mia's grip on Lisa's hand loosened a bit, her curiosity shining through her fear. With each sentence, it felt like the thick fog of mistrust began to clear. But just as hope started to flicker like a candle in the dark, another nearby officer spoke, almost offensively. Look, I get that you're hurting, but don't paint us all with the same brush. We're not your enemy. That statement hung in the air, heavy and charged. Lisa felt the sting of it, a familiar divide re-emerging. The conversations began to swirl again, rising in frustration. "Who are you protecting?" someone shouted, igniting the crowd's anger once more. Lisa felt the tension shift again, wondering if they were on the precipice of breaking through barriers or descending back into chaos. As the thunder rolled once more overhead, a figure in the back caught Lisa's eye. It was a tall woman, petite, but commanding, with a fierce gaze that cut through the rising discontent. Lisa's heart raced as recognition hit her. It was Detective Avery, the woman who once had power over her. The weight of their shared history was palpable. Lisa felt the crowd's chatter dip, many heads turning toward Avery out of curiosity. "No!" Lisa shouted involuntarily, as her past collided with her present. This woman, she was part of an injustice. She let us hear from her. The crowd murmured as the detective stepped forward, her eyes fixed intently on Lisa. "Please," Avery said, voice steady yet vulnerable. "I need to speak about my own transformation. I want to show you how change is possible, even within those of us who have caused harm." The crowd murmured, apprehension mixed with a flicker of intrigue. Lisa swallowed hard. Could this be the moment they needed? Could the past be reconciled to create a future where voices were heard and understood? But as she locked eyes with Avery, an unsettling thought crept in. Could she trust the woman who had once been a figure of authority? What would be the price of forgiveness? And would the truth finally break the cycle of pain? The answers loomed ahead. Avery took a deep breath, raising her hands in a calming gesture. "I know many of you may not want to hear anything I have to say, but my journey has been long and painful. I want to share that pain with you, and I hope you can find it in your hearts to listen." Lisa felt a stir of defiance surging within her. She wanted so desperately to shout, to scream, that there was no place for explanations when there had been so much hurt. Yet, she also sensed the weight of the crowd's eyes. They were grappling with their own histories and the current moment. "I was once blind," Avery continued, her voice cutting through the tension. "In a world where I wore a badge, I thought I was doing the right thing. But I realize now how that belief damaged communities, including yours. I took my power for granted. I am here to foster understanding." The crowd reacted with a mix of anger and curiosity. "You think an apology is enough?" someone challenged. "No," Avery said, her tone firm. "I'm not here to offer false hope. I know words aren't enough, and trust takes time to rebuild. I'm here to change that and to own my mistakes." Lisa felt a pulse in the crowd as more voices arose, some in agreement and others still in disbelief. Mia tugged lightly at her mother's sleeve, whispering quietly, "Mom, she seems different. Maybe she really has changed." Lisa looked at her daughter. Uncertainty clouded her vision. "But how can we be sure, Mia? Change takes more than just words. Maybe we should give her a chance to explain," Mia urged, her youthful compassion shining through the heaviness of the moment. "Let her speak," someone called from the crowd. Avery's eyes flicked back to Lisa, vulnerability etched into the lines on her face. "I want to ask for forgiveness, not just for myself, but for the system that failed you and others like you," she said. "I've witnessed the pain I perpetuated, and it forced me to confront the realities of my actions. It shattered my image of being a protector." As her confession unfolded, Lisa's heart ached. She couldn't forget the scars of their past interactions, but there was something about Avery's demeanor that made her pause. "Tell us what you plan to do now," an angry voice demanded from the back. "I aim to change policy," Avery replied, her voice resolute. "I'm working with other officers to implement better training and community outreach. I want to make sure that we're held accountable. Words aren't action." Someone yelled, "We've heard it all before." Avery nodded. "You're right. Trust is built through action, and I need to earn it. I'm going to show up for this community, not as an enforcer, but as a listener and a partner." As her words hung in the air, the atmosphere shifted once more. Lisa could feel it, the slow ember of something stirring within the crowd. Hope, perhaps, but also deep skepticism. Can it really change? Lisa murmured under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. Mia squeezed her hand again, firmer this time. "Okay, Mom. Maybe she can help." Lisa's heart raced. What if it was true? What if this moment could be the start of healing? Yet, as she glanced at Avery, the ghosts of the past lingered. Every ounce of her wanted to scoff at the possibility. "Will you show us what true change looks like?" Someone challenged again, this time quieter, but the weight still heavy. "Yes," Avery replied, her voice firm. "I will." But could commitments be enough to bridge the years of division? Did the crowd believe her? The thunder rolled again, an ominous reminder that the storm was still very much present, both outside and within the hearts of everyone gathered. As conflict simmered, Lisa felt a glimmer of hope emerging, but it came with a flood of uncertainty. Would they be bold enough to step into this churning space of possibility? And could Lisa herself dare to trust again? "Let us keep talking," Lisa finally said, her voice quivering but stronger than before. "We all need to share our truths. It's time to break this silence." The response surged through the crowd, an electric mix of impatience and eagerness. Perhaps this would mark the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. But even as she spoke, Lisa couldn't shake the lurking doubt. What if their stories collided yet again, causing further damage? Could they begin to heal from the past? Or was it too late to rewrite their shared fate? The answers lay ahead, blurred but beckoning. As Lisa's call for dialogue pierced through the thick tension, she felt a soft ripple in the crowd. Some were nodding, while others remained stony-faced, caught in their spirals of resentment and suspicion. Avery's presence lingered somewhere between gratitude and trepidation. "Let us share," a man finally said, stepping forward. His brow was heavy with emotion, his voice quaking. "You're asking for understanding, but you don't know the pain we've lived through." He took a moment, finding strength in their shared discomfort. "I lost my brother to an unjust arrest. He was just walking home. The badge he wore carried weight, and it crushed him." A murmur swept through the crowd, people exchanging glances, feeling the man's raw agony. Avery took a step toward him, her hands half raised as if to reach out, but she paused, unsure. "I'm so sorry for your loss," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't imagine what you faced. I can only pledge to fight against a system that could allow that to happen again." Words. Another voice shouted, this one belonging to a woman at the front, her arms crossed defiantly. "This is all we get? Another broken promise?" "You're right to be angry," Avery replied with resolve. "I wish I could take back the past. I can only stand here and own the part one played. Isn't that what they all say?" The words lay like a stone at the feet of the gathering. Lisa felt her chest tighten. The distrust wasn't fading, it was spilling over, wild and rampant. "We've heard it all before." She echoed the sentiment, glancing at Mia, whose youthful expression was marred by concern. What if this is just another round in a sad saga of empty apologies? Avery's shoulders slumped slightly, yet her voice carried a flicker of defiance. "I know I can't prove myself in one night, but I'm ready to listen to make this a beginning. Let the community share what it needs. What do we get in return for our trust?" The woman pressed, tilting her head. "Our lives are at stake here, not just our feelings." Avery scanned the crowd, searching for the right words. Every conversation starts with one person willing to be open. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the course of lives. As she settled her gaze back on Lisa, something flickered in Lisa's heart. What if we let go of our assumptions? She proposed, her voice cracking yet sincere. What if we tested her? Not for the sake of absolution, but for the chance of change. Mia's eyes lit up. Yes, we could gather together, talk, listen, and share our stories. Maybe we can figure out what each of us needs to feel safe again. Encouragement began to ripple through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, leaning closer. Others hesitated, still holding on to their skepticism, but visibly intrigued. "We need to decide what that looks like," said a young woman with bright green hair, her voice cutting through the fray. "But no more waiting on just words. We not only need actions, but meaningful change that starts here with us. Why not hold preventable workshops? Encourage opportunities to discuss the realities we face?" Someone else suggested. Avery's eyes brightened with a mixture of hope and determination. "I'm willing to partner with you, to learn what truly matters to each of you," she said, her resolve returning. Yet Lisa still felt the weight of doubt pressing against her heart. An avalanche of stories and histories loomed ahead, and the path was foggy. Could they break through the walls of skepticism? Could healing actually happen amidst the memories that still stung? As the people around her carried a renewed sense of purpose, Lisa's heart thudded hard in her chest. Was it possible that, together, they could carve a new path forward? But questions still lingered like shadows over their intentions. Just as the possibility of hope began to unfold, another rumble of thunder filled the air, stirring unease within. Would they face the storm together, or scatter in fear? The moment hung, pregnant with uncertainty, a fragile truce poised on the edge of metamorphosis. The thunder rolled again, vibrating through the crowd like a heartbeat. Lisa felt the tension ramping up, and for a moment, she feared that the storm above might lose its battle with the storm below. "We can't just stand here," shouted a man in the back, his voice cutting through the anxiety like a knife. "If this is our chance at real change, we can't waste it on doubt." People were shifting on their feet, tension still hanging in the air. Some faces glimmered with a cautious hope, while others were drawn tight with mistrust. Lisa's heart raced. Could they really do this? Avery stepped forward, swallowing hard a battle of her own warring within her. "Help me understand." Her voice was steadier now, more resolved. "I want to hear your stories. What can we do together?" The crowd held its breath. This was different, wasn't it? Avery was showing up not as a figure of authority, but as a person, vulnerable and earnest. Suddenly, the young woman with green hair raised her hand to speak again. "You want to listen? How about starting with an acknowledgement? We need to hear basic truths. Not just words, but an understanding of the systems at play. We should unearth the past." A voice chimed in from the side. "Let's tell you how deeply this goes. How it seeps into our families, our neighborhoods." The crowd buzzed with permission. It was like a dam breaking. Avery nodded, absorbing the spiraling tales unfolding around her. One after another, voice after voice, they began to peel back layers, exposing raw wounds and collective memories that had long been buried beneath anger and fear. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, heart aching for the stories that were finally escaping lips clenched for so long. She could feel the energy shift, a collective catharsis taking place as people poured out pain, disappointment, and a desperate yearning for understanding. Mia squeezed Lisa's hand, her youthful optimism bolstered by the unfolding trust in the moment. "Look, they're talking. They really are." But amidst the flow of emotion, Lisa couldn't shake that unsettling feeling. It was a glimmer of hope wrapped tightly with an overlay of doubt. She turned to Mia. "But how do we know it will last? What keeps us from drifting back into silence?" The moment crystallized as another impassioned story soared into the air. "We have to build something from this," a worn old man, his voice gentle yet laced with determination, waved his hands to call for unity. "A foundation of trust, one where we acknowledge every wound." Avery interjected, her voice rising with an unshakable conviction. "Then let us make that commitment together, here now." Applause washed over the crowd, but it was tentative, a smattering of support offered against a backdrop of uncertainty. Lisa felt a surge of hope rising and faltering, as if caught in waves. What does that mean for us? A promise is only as strong as the actions that follow. Just then, another rumble of thunder clapped overhead, shaking the ground beneath them. In that very moment, a figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the gathering, a tall woman with a powerful presence, her face partly obscured. "Who is that?" someone whispered as eyes followed the figure advancing toward the center. The crowd fell silent, tension once again dancing on the edge, waiting in breathless anticipation. As the woman stepped into the light, all eyes widened, the air electric with realization. Please don't tell me, what kind of storm were they about to face, and could their fragile truce withstand it? The moment hung heavy, full of potential and dread, just like the thick clouds brewing above. Lisa stood at the front, her heart pounding as the atmosphere thickened with questions and fears. It felt like everything hung in precarious balance: the weight of the past, the longing for hope, and the uncertainty of the future. The woman who stepped forward was none other than Sheila, the former chief of police, the one who had stood against everything Lisa now represented. Gasps echoed through the crowd, eyes darting between the two women, memories frozen on the surface. What would this encounter unfold? "Hello, everyone," Sheila began, her voice low but resonant. "I'm here with a purpose tonight." There was an edge in her tone, a mix of regret and determination. "I left my position because I wanted to make room for voices that could evoke real change. I need you to know this was not just about one person, but a systemic issue that I failed to tackle." Lisa felt a stirring within her. Could Sheila's presence shift the tide? It felt like a test. Would the crowd spiral into chaos, or would they see this moment for what it could embody? "Why should we listen to you?" someone shouted from the back, voice sharp with skepticism. "What does this really mean for us?" Sheila drew a breath. "You have every right to question me. My actions had consequences, and I'm here to tell you that I faced my own reckoning. I know now that my silence perpetuated harm, and it's why I stepped aside." The crowd held its breath. "Tonight, I stand with you, not against you. But I also know that my journey is only a piece of the larger puzzle. Change requires all of us officers, residents, and families to come together." Lisa felt the connection begin to shift in the crowd, the hard edges of resentment softening ever so slightly. But she knew they were still teetering on that edge. Boldly, she stepped into the fray. "And what does that look like, Sheila? What actions will you take to back those words?" Sheila offered a regretful nod. "I want to help develop programs that focus on restorative justice and training. I want to listen to each of your stories, not from a position of authority, but as a fellow human. It's time we acknowledge and honor the pain that has been pushed aside for too long." A murmur rippled through the audience, hearts beginning to relax just enough to breathe. Lisa felt the tension start to unfurl around her. Could healing really be possible? She wondered silently. But one last challenge rang out. "How do we know you won't abandon us again?" "Trust takes time," Sheila replied earnestly. "I'll prove through actions, not just words. I'm determined to be transparent as we navigate this road together. It starts today, right here." Lisa felt Mia lean closer, eyes shining with a flicker of hope. The air around them pulsed with a new energy, a sense of renewal unfolding like spring after a long winter. "Are you ready to share your experience?" Lisa turned to the crowd, her voice strong and steady. "Will you allow each other to be vulnerable in this space? This is our home, and we can fight for its future together." Slowly, heads began to nod. A young man spoke up first, his nervousness palpable but brave. "I lost a friend to violence resulting from misunderstandings between officers and our community, but I want to believe things can change." His words sparked a flurry of stories, a cascade of raw emotion threading through the crowd, hearts opening as they embraced shared experiences. As one voice led to another, Lisa could feel the landscape of their community shifting. The darkness didn't vanish, but it felt less suffocating amid the outpouring of truth and connection. Stories poured forth like a healing balm, each tale intertwining into a narrative woven with resilience. When the crowd began to rise as one, Lisa could hardly believe it. "Are we on the cusp of change?" she thought, dizzy with combined fear and anticipation. "Is this it?" Then suddenly, the air brightened. "You got this." A voice rang out, rising through the cacophony. And in that moment, Lisa locked eyes with Mark and Ryan, the officers who had haunted every decision. Would they join in this act of healing or stand aside in fear? Ryan finally stepped forward, visibly shaken but resolute. "I was wrong, Lisa. We all were. I want to let the fear of the past drive our future. Together, I want to fix this." He reached out his hand, an olive branch of sorts. Mark mirrored the action, a mix of remorse and strength in his eyes. "We will stand with you. It starts now." Cheers erupted, powerful and affirming. Lisa felt tears welling up as she beamed, basking in a collective heartbeat, a community rising from the ashes of former struggles, embracing each other anew. That evening, under the gathering storm clouds, the surf of hope and healing began to break over their town. Together, they were finally claiming their voices after too long in silence, a symphony of change ready to echo through Midwestern streets. As the festivities continued, a realization dawned inside of Lisa. This journey had only just begun, but holding on to what united them would guide the way. The memories of loss might remain, but hope was taking root. And as the night wore on, Lisa glanced toward the horizon, filled with uncertainty yet infused with determination. They were stepping into the unknown together, and she felt ready. Now, here's where you come in. Don't just let this moment slip away. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories filled with hope and transformation. Leave a like now to help us feed that powerful algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to be uplifted by this transformation, because you need to show your support. Don't wait one more second to make your voice heard. Let's keep this momentum going.